I never thought I'd be sharing this, but here goes. I'm Liam, 35, and I swear, being the youngest in my family feels like a full-time job. My parents, Martha and Robert, have always put my older sister, Sarah, the lawyer, on a pedestal. My brother, Michael, well, he's complicated. Let's just say he's had a rough time and hasn't quite lived up to their expectations. That leaves me, the good son, always trying to keep the peace. Lately, though, it's been impossible, especially since my wife, Emily, and I had our son, Leo. They just don't seem to care. Is this about to blow up in my face? I spent weeks planning Leo's first birthday. I blew way too much money, but seeing his face light up was worth it. I sent out invitations, even hand-delivering one to my parents. They RSVP'd yes, promised they wouldn't miss it. The day arrived and I was buzzing around, making sure everything was perfect. Emily kept giving me this reassuring smile like she knew I was secretly terrified they wouldn't show. 2 hours into the party, my stomach dropped to my knees. Still no Martha and Robert. No call, no text, nothing. I kept checking my phone, making excuses to our friends. Then Aunt Carol, bless her heart, showed me Sarah's Instagram story. There they were, my parents, dressed to the nines at some fancy country club, toasting Sarah's promotion to partner. A cold wave washed over me. "Everything okay, Liam?" Emily asked, her brow furrowed. I just shook my head, unable to speak. Later, after everyone left, I called them, my hands trembling so badly I had to set my phone down. My mom answered, all bubbly. "Oh, Liam, darling, so sorry, we completely lost track of time. Sarah's celebrating, big news. Leo's birthday, Mom, you promised." "Oh, honey, don't be like that, it's just a kid's party. Sarah's career is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Besides, after everything we've done for you, this isn't about me, it's about your grandson, your only grandson." My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. My dad chimed in, his voice booming. "Liam, you need to think about what's best for the family. Sarah's success reflects on all of us." "What about Leo? Does he not reflect on you?" "Don't be ridiculous," my mom snapped. "You and Emily are rushing things. We have lives too." They hung up. I stared at my phone, replaying the conversation in my head. Was I overreacting? Was I not good enough? It felt like a punch to the gut, but deep down, I knew it wasn't just about the party. It was a pattern, a constant devaluation that had been going on my whole life. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I could just accept it anymore. The next morning, I decided on a private conversation. A mistake, I soon realized. I drove to their house, the knot in my stomach tightening with each mile. "We need to talk," I said the moment my dad opened the door. They led me to the living room, Martha perched on the edge of the sofa, Robert standing like a disapproving headmaster. "About what, Liam?" Martha asked, her tone laced with fake sweetness. "About yesterday, about missing Leo's birthday, about everything." Robert scoffed. "Why are you bringing this up now? Can't you let Sarah have her moment?" Deflection. Masterful. "This isn't about Sarah. This is about you two consistently ignoring my family. Ignoring me," my voice cracked. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. "Ignoring you, that's ridiculous. We've always been there for you," Martha insisted. "We're family, we should support each other." Guilt trip engaged. "That never happened the way you're describing," Robert added, his voice low and steady. "Gaslighting, textbook. Dad, you weren't there. You missed your grandson's first birthday to celebrate Sarah's promotion. Again." "Emily is too ambitious," Robert said, his eyes narrowing. "She's not the right fit for this family." My blood ran cold. "What does Emily have to do with this?" Martha jumped in, her voice sharp. "You and Emily are rushing things. We just don't have time for you right now, Liam. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." False equivalence. My face burned with humiliation. "Everyone has problems, you're not special," Robert said, shrugging. "So that's it, you don't care." "Of course we care, Liam, but you need to understand our priorities. Sarah needs us right now, she's successful, you're just comfortable." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. My throat closed up, words trapped inside. The years of trying to please them, of bending over backward, flashed before my eyes. My heart pounded like a drum against my ribs. I stood up, defeated. "I can't do this anymore." "Do what, Liam?" "Be a supportive son," Martha asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I walked out, the weight of their disappointment crushing me. It was more than just a missed birthday. It was a lifetime of feeling second best, of always being the peacemaker, even if it meant sacrificing my own happiness. I was exhausted. Maybe, just maybe, I didn't deserve this. A week later, I got the group text. Family dinner Sunday at 6, be there, Mom. No please, no hope you can make it, just a command. I stared at my phone. Why was I still putting up with this? Emily saw my face. What is it? I showed her the text. She sighed. Do we have to? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wanted to tell them to shove it, to finally stand up for myself and my family. But another part, the part that had been programmed since childhood, couldn't bear the thought of the fallout. Maybe we can go late, leave early, Emily suggested, ever the pragmatist. I nodded, grateful for her understanding. Sunday arrived, dragging its feet. By 5:45, I felt physically ill. A tension headache throbbed behind my eyes, a familiar prelude to family gatherings. We arrived at my parents' house at 6:30, fashionably late, I hoped. The aroma of pot roast, Martha's specialty and Sarah's favorite, hit me the moment I opened the door. Liam, Emily, so glad you could make it, Martha chirped, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Leo's looking big. She didn't reach for him, though. Sarah was already there, perched on the arm of the sofa, regaling everyone with a story about a recent case. Michael was there too, looking withdrawn as usual. The air was thick with unspoken tension. Liam, help me with the potatoes, Martha directed, waving me toward the kitchen. I followed her, feeling like a scolded child. So, how's work? She asked, not really waiting for an answer. Sarah was just telling us about her promotion. It's so impressive, Liam, you should take notes. I clenched my jaw. A memory flashed me, 10 years old, proudly showing my parents a drawing I'd made. That's nice, Liam, my mom had said before turning to Sarah and praising her straight a report card. The potatoes were already mashed. Mom, I'm happy for Sarah, but can we not compare us all the time? She huffed. It's not a comparison, Liam. It's encouragement. You need to be more ambitious. I'm happy with my life, I said, trying to keep my voice even. Comfortable, she corrected, echoing Robert's earlier jab. That's what you are. We carried the food to the dining room where Robert was holding court, pontificating on some political issue. Ah, Liam, glad you could join us. Sarah was just telling us about her bonus, quite substantial. He winked at Sarah. I forced a smile. That's great, Dad. Dinner commenced. The conversation revolved around Sarah's accomplishments, with occasional pointed questions directed at me about my lack of progress. Remember when Liam wanted to be a musician? Robert chuckled. Thank goodness he came to his senses. Laughter rippled around the table. My stomach churned. Liam's a wonderful father, Emily interjected, her voice firm. That's an accomplishment in itself. Martha sniffed. Of course, dear, but a man needs more than just fatherhood to define him. Michael surprisingly spoke up. Lay off, Mom, Liam's doing fine. Martha turned to him, her face hardening. And how are you doing, Michael? Still fine, Michael's face fell. The meal continued in this vein, a relentless barrage of subtle jabs and thinly veiled insults. Liam, we were thinking, Martha began, her tone suddenly saccharine. Now that Sarah's so busy, perhaps you could take over managing our finances. You're so good with numbers. It was a demand disguised as a request. They wanted me to take over everything. I don't know, Mom, I'm pretty busy myself, I replied, a small act of defiance, a tiny crack in the dam. Nonsense, Robert boomed. Family comes first. I looked at Emily, at the tired but supportive look in her eyes. We have to get going, I said, standing up abruptly. Leo's got an early appointment tomorrow. But you just got here, Martha protested. Sorry, Mom, gotta run. I didn't wait for their reply. I grabbed Emily's hand and we walked out, leaving the pot roast and the pointed comments behind. In the car, I took a deep breath. The tension headache hadn't completely dissipated, but it was a little less intense. I had set a boundary, however small. I had said no. And somehow that felt like a victory. That night I couldn't sleep. The dinner replayed in my mind, each comment, each subtle dig amplifying in the darkness. I tossed and turned, the familiar ache of inadequacy gnawing at me. Finally, around 3 a.m., I gave up. I got out of bed, careful not to wake Emily, and went to the living room. I needed to talk to someone. I scrolled through my contacts, stopping at Ben's name. Ben was my best friend since college. He'd seen my family in action countless times, witnessed the favoritism firsthand. Hesitantly, I sent him a text. "Hey, you up?" To my surprise, he replied almost immediately. "Yeah, insomnia's a bitch tonight. What's up? Can I call you?" "Always, buddy." I dialed his number, my heart pounding in my chest. It felt strange, vulnerable to admit how deeply my family affected me. "Hey man," Ben said, his voice groggy but warm. "Everything okay?" "I don't know, Ben, I need to talk." I paused, unsure how to begin. "It's my family again, you know." "Figured," Ben said gently. "Spill." I hesitated. "It's stupid, really. I'm probably overreacting." I minimized it just like I always did. "Liam," Ben said, his voice firm. "Don't do that. Tell me what happened." So I did. I told him about Leo's birthday, about my parents' absence and Sarah's Instagram story. I told him about the dinner, about the constant comparisons, the thinly veiled insults, the pressure to take over their finances. They just never stop, Ben. It's like they enjoy making me feel small. I swallowed hard, fighting back tears. They treat me like I'm still a kid, like my life is a disappointment. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could practically feel Ben's disbelief radiating through the phone. "Liam," he finally said, his voice laced with concern. That's actually not normal family behavior." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "I mean, it's one thing to have family quirks, but this is different. They actively put you down, they dismiss your feelings, they manipulate you into doing what they want." "Manipulate?" I scoffed. "They're just old-fashioned. Dude, come on, they skipped your son's first birthday to celebrate your sister's promotion. That's messed up. And then they guilt-trip you for being upset. That's manipulative right there." He continued, "And that stuff at dinner, the constant comparisons. If anyone else treated you that way, would you accept it? Would you let a friend talk to you like that?" The questions hit me like a ton of bricks. I wouldn't. I'd cut anyone else out of my life who consistently disrespected me. So why was I allowing my parents to do it? "You deserve to be treated with basic respect, Liam," Ben said, his voice gentle but firm. "You're a good husband, a great father, a hard worker. You don't need their approval." His words resonated deep within me, a chord of truth that had been buried for far too long. I always thought it was my fault," I confessed, my voice trembling. "That if I just tried harder, pleased them more, they'd finally be proud of me." "Liam, listen to me. This isn't about you. It's about them. They have their own issues, their own insecurities, and they're projecting them onto you. You can't fix that, you can't change them." A wave of relief washed over me, followed by a surge of anger. It wasn't my fault. All this time I'd been blaming myself when the problem was them. "You realize that they have been financially dependent on you, right?" Ben asked. "And they still treat you like this?" "Yeah," I responded. "I've been paying for their mortgage, their car insurance, their groceries, everything." "Liam, that's insane." Ben exclaimed. "You are paying for them to disrespect you." The realization hit me with the force of a tidal wave. Ben was right. I was enabling their behavior, perpetuating the cycle. By providing for them, I was giving them the power to control me, to make me feel indebted to them. "I need to stop," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Yeah, you do," Ben agreed. "You need to protect yourself, your wife, your son. You need to set some boundaries, Liam, and you need to stop feeling guilty for prioritizing your own happiness." "But what if they disown me?" I asked, the old fear creeping back in. "So what?" Ben retorted. "Would that really be so bad? You'd finally be free." Free. The word echoed in my mind, a promise of a life without constant judgment, without the suffocating weight of my parents' expectations. I stared out the window, the first rays of dawn painting the sky with hues of pink and orange. The world seemed brighter, clearer than it had in years. I knew what I had to do. The next Sunday they called. "Liam, we need you to come over." "Now," Robert barked into the phone. "There's been an accident." My heart leaped into my throat. "What happened? Is everyone okay?" "Martha tripped. She thinks she broke her wrist. You need to take her to the hospital." "Why can't Sarah?" I asked, the question out before I could stop it. "Sarah's busy, Liam. This is your mother we're talking about," I sighed, of course. "Fine, I'll be there in 15 minutes. I hung up, my hands shaking. Emily put a hand on my arm. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No," I said. "I need to do this myself." When I arrived, Martha was sitting on the sofa, cradling her arm. Robert paced back and forth, his face etched with worry, or maybe irritation. It was hard to tell with him. Finally, "What took you so long?" Robert snapped. "Traffic, Dad. Let's get her to the hospital." I helped Martha into the car, trying to ignore the familiar resentment bubbling inside me. Why was I always the one who had to drop everything? At the hospital, after hours of waiting, tests, and X-rays, the doctor confirmed Martha had indeed fractured her wrist. "She'll need help around the house for a few weeks," the doctor said. "Someone will need to cook, clean, and help her dress." Robert looked at me expectantly. "Liam, you'll do it, won't you?" It was a direct threat. If I didn't comply, I would be the bad son, the ungrateful child who abandoned his mother in her time of need. I looked at Martha, her face pale and drawn. I looked at Robert, his eyes hard and demanding. And then I looked down at my hands. They were shaking, but not with fear, with anger. Something snapped. Years of suppressed resentment, of quiet obedience, of constant striving for approval, all crystallized into a single, blinding moment of clarity. A calmness settled over me, a strange sense of detachment. The anxiety that had been plaguing me for weeks, the constant second-guessing, the fear of disappointing my parents, all vanished, replaced by an unwavering resolve. I stood up straighter, my shoulders back. The room seemed to fade into the background. The only thing in focus was my own decision. "No," I said, my voice steady and clear. Martha gasped. Robert's face turned red. "What did you say?" he sputtered. "I said no. I'm not doing it." "How dare you? Your mother needs you," Martha cried, clutching her injured wrist. "I have my own family to take care of," I said, my voice unwavering. "Emily and Leo need me more." "Ungrateful brat, after everything we've done for you," Robert roared, his face contorted with rage. I met his gaze, unafraid. "You haven't done anything for me. You've done everything for Sarah, and I'm done enabling it." Their faces registered shock, disbelief. They had never seen me like this before. This was not the Liam they knew. Internally, I was a volcano. Externally, the eruption was contained. "I'm cutting off all financial support." Relief flooded me. I'm done. The die was cast. Daniel spent the next few days meticulously preparing. Gathering screenshots of belittling texts, calendar reminders of missed events, bank statements detailing years of payments. Evidence. He consulted with a financial advisor, mapping out the logistics of severing financial ties. A therapist helped him anticipate his parents' likely reactions, the guilt trips, the accusations. He read articles on manipulative personality types, arming himself with knowledge. Securing assets was vital. He transferred funds into a separate account, ensuring Emily and Leo were protected. He printed copies of important documents, insurance policies, Leo's birth certificate. A contingency plan was crafted, a temporary living arrangement with Ben if needed. Practicing responses was key. "We sacrificed everything for you. That's your choice, not my responsibility. You're ruining the family. I'm creating my own family." Choosing his clothes felt absurd yet necessary, something neutral, inoffensive. No tie. Relaxing music filled the apartment, deep breaths centered him. Ben offered unwavering support. "They'll try to make you feel guilty, Liam. Don't fall for it. You're doing the right thing." Ben offered to wait nearby, a safe place. His internal monologue was a storm. "This is it." A knot of anxiety tightened his stomach. "They'll be furious. Mom will cry, Dad will yell." He reviewed his points, rehearsed his delivery. "Stay calm, be firm, protect Emily and Leo." What if they disowned him? A flash of freedom countered the fear. He hoped to finally establish boundaries, to be seen, to be valued for who he was, not what he provided. "You got this," Emily whispered, squeezing his hand. He arrived at his parents' house. The familiar scent of pot roast wafted from the open windows. One last breath. He walked up the path, the weight of years lifting with each step, no turning back. The living room was a museum of Sarah, framed diplomas, photos with politicians, gleaming trophies. Martha sat stiffly on the floral sofa, her fractured wrist in a sling. Robert stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, a thundercloud etched on his face. The air crackled with anticipation. "About time," Robert barked. "Sit down. We need to talk about this ridiculous email." Daniel stood his ground. There's nothing to talk about, it was clear. Martha's eyes welled up. How could you do this to us, Liam, after everything? Those tactics don't work on me anymore, Daniel interrupted, his voice steady. I've supported you both for years, paid your mortgage, your bills, everything. And in return, I've gotten nothing but criticism and disrespect. Especially towards Emily and Leo, Robert scoffed. Disrespect? We're just being honest. Emily's not one of us, and Leo, he's spoiled rotten. He's a child, Daniel retorted. And Emily is the best thing that ever happened to me. You will not speak about them that way. Martha dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. We only want what's best for you, Liam. You're throwing your life away for a woman who loves me unconditionally, Daniel finished, and who supports my dreams instead of belittling them, something you've never done. Robert stepped forward, his face inches from Daniel's. You ungrateful little, don't, Daniel warned, his voice low and dangerous. Don't you dare call me names, this ends now. I'm not asking, I'm telling you. The money stops. The constant criticism stops. The comparisons to Sarah stop. Martha's tears flowed freely now. But how will we manage? We depend on you. Maybe you should have thought about that before prioritizing Sarah's promotions over your grandson's first birthday, Daniel said, the words laced with steel. Robert's face paled. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. This isn't about the money, Daniel continued, his gaze sweeping between them. It's about control, and you've lost it. Martha's sobs intensified. She reached for Daniel's hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Please, Liam, don't do this. We're your parents. Daniel looked down at her hand, then back at her tear-streaked face. For a moment he wavered. The guilt, the ingrained obligation tugged at him. But then he thought of Emily, of Leo, of the peace he craved, the life he deserved. He gently removed her hand from his. I'm done sacrificing my well-being for your comfort. He turned and walked towards the door, leaving his parents speechless, their carefully constructed world crumbling around them. At the doorway he paused, took a deep breath, and looked back one last time. Consider this your eviction notice from my life, he said, then turned and walked away, closing the door firmly behind him. The click echoed in the silent house, a sound of finality, of freedom. Liam stumbled out of the house, gasping for air. His hands trembled so violently he could barely grip the steering wheel. He drove aimlessly, tears blurring his vision. He pulled over to the side of the road, burying his face in his hands. The dam broke. A torrent of sobs racked his body, years of pent-up emotion pouring out. After what felt like an eternity, he lifted his head, his eyes swollen and red. He checked his rearview mirror, barely recognizing the haggard man staring back. He looked sick. But there was something else there too, a flicker of something new. Hope, resolve, he wasn't sure. He started the car and drove to Ben's apartment. Ben opened the door, his face etched with concern. Liam, what happened? Liam couldn't speak. He just shook his head and walked inside. Ben led him to the sofa, handed him a glass of water, and sat beside him in silence. After a while, Liam managed to choke out a few words, then another. He told Ben everything, the confrontation, the accusations, the tears. Ben listened patiently, offering words of support and encouragement. When Liam was finished, Ben put a hand on his shoulder. You did it, Liam. You finally did it. Liam nodded, tears streaming down his face again. I don't know what's going to happen now, he said, his voice trembling. You'll figure it out, Ben said. You're stronger than you think. 6 weeks have passed since that day. 6 weeks of quiet, of reflection, of healing. The immediate aftermath was chaotic. His parents bombarded him with calls, texts, emails, each one more desperate, more accusatory than the last. Sarah even tried to intervene, playing the role of mediator, but Liam refused to engage. He blocked their numbers, muted their emails, and focused on his own family. There were moments of doubt, of course, times when the guilt threatened to overwhelm him. Had he been too harsh? Was he really doing the right thing? But then he would look at Emily, at Leo, and remember the years of emotional abuse, the constant devaluation, the relentless pressure to conform. And he would know that he had made the only choice he could make. Slowly, things began to change. He started sleeping better, his anxiety eased, and he found himself enjoying life again. He spent more time with Emily and Leo. building a strong, loving family free from the toxicity of his parents' influence. His relationship with Sarah remained strained. She didn't understand his decision, couldn't grasp the depth of his pain, but Michael reached out, offering his support. He confessed that he had always felt like an outsider in the family, that he had witnessed the favoritism firsthand. He applauded Liam's courage, said that he wished he could do the same. His extended family was divided. Some sided with his parents, accusing him of being ungrateful and selfish. Others praised his strength, admired his commitment to his own well-being. He learned to tune out the noise, to focus on the people who truly cared about him. His parents tried every trick in the book: guilt trips, threats, manipulation. They even showed up at his house one day, unannounced, begging him to reconsider. But Liam stood firm, refusing to let them back into his life. Financially, things were tight, but they managed. Emily took on extra shifts, and Liam found a higher-paying job. They cut back on expenses, but they never sacrificed their happiness. They prioritized experiences over possessions, spending their time together, laughing, loving, and creating memories. One day, he received a letter from his parents' lawyer. They were threatening to sue him for financial support. He laughed. Let them try. He had the evidence, the witnesses, the truth on his side. He started to see a therapist regularly, working through the years of emotional baggage, learning to set boundaries and practicing self-care. He discovered that he was not responsible for his parents' happiness, that he had the right to prioritize his own needs. He began to rediscover his love of music, dusting off his old guitar and writing songs about his experiences. He joined a band, started playing gigs at local bars, and found a creative outlet that nourished his soul. He realized that his worth was not tied to his parents' approval, that he was a valuable person in his own right. His parents eventually stopped trying to contact him. The silence was deafening but also liberating. He learned that family is not always blood, that it is the people who love you unconditionally, who support your dreams, who accept you for who you are, flaws and all. He has established new boundaries, not just with his parents, but with everyone in his life. He prioritizes his family's emotional well-being above all else. He no longer seeks validation from others, and this has led to a more authentic and fulfilling life. He is still healing, still growing. There are still moments of sadness, of anger, of doubt, but he is stronger now, more resilient. He knows that he can face whatever challenges life throws his way, as long as he has Emily and Leo by his side. I've learned that setting boundaries, even with family, is an act of self-love, not selfishness. I've grown from a people pleaser to a protector of my own peace. I'm no longer the peacemaker, I'm a guardian of my own happiness. My current emotional state, lighter, wiser, free. Has anyone else dealt with similar family dynamics? How did you navigate cutting off toxic family members while dealing with the guilt and societal pressure? What strategies did you use to maintain healthy boundaries and protect your own mental and emotional well-being? I'm still navigating holidays, and the thought of future family events fills me with dread. Any advice on managing those situations would be greatly appreciated.